Hi everyone, good to see you all again. I'm Adam Steele for the Hot Pole Studios, and today we're going to do something a little different from our usual content. I'm in the middle of doing about 3 or 4 quite complex videos which are coming up quite soon. One of which is the Sontronic Solo microphone review. Reviewing a microphone is actually relatively difficult, it turns out. And the cloth on guitar and bass cabinets and whether that makes a sonic difference. So that's been quite tricky, making sure that's a bead. And I've got quite a few other things on the go. So in the meantime, wanted to do a couple of videos about viewers' comments. It's not something I'm going to make a weekly thing, like kind of Glenn Fricker or someone like that. But I've had quite a lot of technical questions, and kind of typing the answers out one by one is not only quite time consuming, but then you don't all get to see the answers. Some of this is very techy, some of it's more musical, so let's begin. Okay, so I've had a message from L. Alexis on the Focusrite Claret 2 Pre video saying, if you don't have Thunderbolt in your PC, what kind of PCI card would you recommend? Does it matter what card one chooses? Yes, it matters hugely. Unlike something like Firewire, where you can just get any old PCI or PCIe expansion card and throw that in and it should work, Thunderbolt is very specific. Only certain motherboards even support it. And if the motherboard doesn't already have it on, you have to know in the motherboard's manual or in its description whether it supports it. And then almost guaranteed you will need to get the one card that manufacturer makes that is compatible. Like my motherboard in the main studio computer is an Asus Maximus 8 Hero. And the only card that works with that is one that's a Thunderbolt 3 card that they make. If I was going down the Thunderbolt 3 route, that is the one that I would have to use, because the manufacturers designed the motherboard with the intention of you because of the way that Thunderbolt and PCI Express work together, it has to be that specific. So be aware of this. If you're going to buy a new computer and it doesn't have Thunderbolt, make sure if you plan on getting Thunderbolt in the future that the motherboard can support it and that you can find the card that's added in that you will have to use, because if you can't buy it, it's new motherboard time again, which makes the whole thing redundant. Quick comment on the speaker burn-in, is it necessary video from Pedal Gazer saying, I noticed nothing. Funnily enough, I didn't notice much either. But I didn't want to be overly biased in the video. I just did it as kind of hands-off and scientific as I could so that people could draw their own conclusions. To me, the difference with speaker burn-in, I thought there was maybe a tiny something there, but it was so small that compared to actually changing the speaker or changing where the microphone goes or any of the other variables, it really didn't make as much difference as I had been led to believe. One that was on the RME Radar FAQ from Alexa Aleka. Do you need to get expansion to get analog outs on the Radar? I saw one on the website. Yes you do. So the RME Radar, I had a look at this as well, and way back in the Hammerfall days, RME made like 4 and 8 channel analog expansions, but compared to today's standards, they're not very good. They were great at the time, but the technology's moved on. I think we've gone from 110 decibels of signal to noise ratio to closer to 130, which is a big leap. Those analog boards can only do 48 kilohertz as well, which for me, half the time renders them pointless. So I just decided to stick with external ADCs and DACs, which was the entire reason that I bought the Radar in the first place. I mean, it's nice that RME did, I don't even think they sell them anymore, but they did make these that are compatible with the Radar and all the other HDSP cards. But yeah, those cards haven't been updated for a reason. They're not with the times, essentially. Comment on the Line 6 Helix native video part 2 from Dr. Nightgaunt. I downloaded the demo but was not really that impressed. While certainly a noticeable improvement over Podfarm, Helix couldn't favourably compete with the guitar tones I'm currently getting with bias effects. Well, thing for me is bias effects, maybe you can get a great guitar tone out of it. Maybe you can get a great guitar tone out of any amp sim though. For me, bias effects, I used it on the iPad, and for what an iPad can do, it was fine, but on desktop, I couldn't do anything with it that made the difference it was supposed to. And I find that when kind of, backing the gain off, it didn't clean up right. The cabinet simulation was a complete mess. The thing that got me, I don't know if it's still the case, but you could turn off the microphone on the cabinet, but... Oh no, that's right, you could turn the cabinet off, but you couldn't turn the microphone off. And I thought, that makes no sense. So, for me, Bios Effects isn't right. At the moment, at least. I mean, maybe they'll improve it, but... Maybe they have improved it, but last time I used it... No, it didn't work right for me. It didn't work how an engineer would expect an amp sim to work. Message on the Mac versus PC for audio production 2017 update from 077DI. What the laptop for audio production and graphic U recommendation? I get what the question is. It's a tricky one, I think. That it depends what country you're in, it depends what your budget is, it depends how powerful you need it to be. For me, I need fairly high-end laptops. If I was looking to buy now, maybe I'd buy a 2015 MacBook Pro completely spec'd out. I personally go to a company in England called Scan that hand make laptops, and maybe I'd use something like a Clevo or a Sager if you're in America, or some like the high-end Razer laptops, something like that, because for me, I need a lot of power. I'm not bothered about the size, I'm not bothered about it being bulky, I'm not bothered about battery life per se. If I was doing a lot of word processing and not any documentation, I'd be happy with a MacBook Air, but that's not my case. So I still use the Scan laptop that was in the original Mac versus PC video because it's got a Radeon 270 in it and a Haswell quad-core processor, which for my mobile needs is fine. And the incremental updates that Intel have done haven't really done very much, if you understand what I mean. That after the 4th generation Haswell, it went generation 6 and 7 because Broadwell was largely kind of skipped. But so that's only maybe a 20% performance increase. So I know it's a wishy-washy answer, but what you can afford. Comment this on the upgrading the silent audio production PC with a GeForce 1050 Ti. From DCI Karuga. Take the case off and put your ear close to the GPU when it's on and you can hear the electrical whizzing. But other than that, it's fine and no dust building up either. Well, if I'm in the middle of working on something and I have to take the side off the case and stick my ear in it, then I'm probably doing something wrong. But when I say silent, I mean, I think this guy's talking about coil whine. There pretty much is no coil whine from this machine because every part that I've spec'd out is well made. And I'm not using anything overclocked. I'm not using anything anywhere near its power limits. That's part of why I've overbuilt the silent production machine. I built it so that every component is running at maybe 50 or 60% load at maximum, because then it doesn't sweat, it doesn't produce too much heat, it doesn't produce any coil whine. And I actually use that production PC with the lid off now in the rack so that there's proper air ventilation because it's completely passive, and I can't hear anything from it. But nothing in my control room makes any noise, and if it's that quiet in there, it's actually almost upsetting because it's that quiet that you can breathe, you can sniffle, and it's 10 times louder than anything in that room. Which also means that I can hear things like noise floors on tracks before the sound even starts. So if there's a noise issue, it jumps right out at me before anything, and I'm not having to turn the speakers up. I can run at 80 dB, 75 dB out of the speakers and mix at very reasonable levels and not be bothered by anything. That's the point of it. And yeah, if I could hear coil whine, I would tell you, and I don't. Okay, I think that's all the comments we've got time for today, so I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. There's going to be a part 2 next week, and then we'll probably do one a little further in the future because we're getting quite a lot of comments now. All the comments that I've done in the last couple of in this episode and the next one are from just 2 weeks. So maybe I will do these on a regular basis. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.